Michael Smith stares at his phone in pure horror. The text message, "I love you. Sleep tight, princess," was meant for his 7-year-old daughter Lily, but he just sent it to Sandra Ferguson, the coldest CEO in Boston. As a widower struggling to raise his daughter alone, Michael can't afford to lose this job. He waits all Sunday night for the angry call that will end his career. Instead, his doorbell rings at 9 p.m., and Sandra Ferguson stands on his doorstep. But she's not holding a termination letter. She's looking at little Lily through the doorway with tears in her eyes, and she says 5 words that change everything. "I was Sarah's donor match." Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel, and it proves that powerful stories resonate everywhere. Michael's boss, Sandra Ferguson, arrived at his house on Sunday night. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of her usual business suits. Her hair was in a ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked different from the cold CO everyone feared at work. Sandra told Michael she wasn't there to fire him. She knew the text was meant for his daughter. She said she needed to explain something important. Michael brought her into the kitchen, while Lily went upstairs to brush her teeth. Sandra explained that 3 years ago, when Michael started working at her company, she saw his wife's name on his employee forms. 6 months later, he updated the forms and removed Sarah's name. Sandra asked HR why, and they told her Sarah had died. Sandra recognized Sarah's name because 8 years earlier, Sandra had donated bone marrow to a woman named Sarah Smith in Boston. Sandra was the anonymous donor who saved Michael's wife's life. Michael was shocked. He couldn't believe it. The stranger he wanted to thank for 8 years was sitting in his kitchen. Sandra had given Sarah 3 extra years of life. Those 3 years let Sarah watch Lily learn to walk and talk. Those years gave them one last Christmas as a family. Michael cried and thanked Sandra over and over. Sandra also told Michael that after she realized who he was, she watched his career carefully. When he applied for a promotion last year, Sandra made sure he got it. She wanted to help him because she knew he was raising Lily alone. She wanted Sarah's family to be taken care of. Michael asked Sandra why she was so different at work. Everyone called her the Ice Queen, but tonight she seemed kind and emotional. Sandra said the business world doesn't reward kindness. It rewards strength. If she showed emotion at work, people would see it as weakness. Being cold was necessary to survive as a female CEO. Before Sandra left, Michael asked if she would like to come for dinner, sometime to meet Lily properly. Sandra said yes. She seemed very happy about the invitation. After she left, Michael tucked Lily into bed and told her the nice lady from tonight was the person who helped Mommy get better years ago. Lily said Sandra must be like a superhero. That night, Michael lay in bed thinking about everything. For 3 years, he had been working for the woman who saved Sarah's life, and he never knew. The text message that should have ruined his career had instead revealed the most important connection of his life. The next Friday, Sandra came for dinner. She brought Lily a stuffed unicorn. Lily loved it immediately. During dinner, Sandra listened to all of Lily's stories about school. She looked at Lily's drawings. She played board games on the floor with her. Michael watched them together and felt happy. Lily hadn't had a mother figure since Sarah died, and Sandra was naturally filling that role. After Lily went to bed, Michael and Sandra talked on the couch. Sandra told Michael about her younger brother Daniel. When Sandra was 22, Daniel got leukemia. They searched for a donor match, but couldn't find one. Daniel died 6 months later. After his death, Sandra registered as a bone marrow donor. She promised herself that if she could be the match someone else needed, then Daniel's death would mean something. Years later, when they called saying a woman in Boston needed her, Sandra knew it was the right thing to do. Michael realized Sarah's life was saved because of Sandra's dead brother. It was all connected. Sandra said she didn't have any other family now. Her parents were dead. She never married or had children. Her life was mostly just work. Michael said that was sad, but Sandra said it was the price of her career. Friday dinners became a regular thing. Every week, Sandra came over. She brought books for Lily and taught her card games. She talked with Michael about life and work and dreams. Michael found himself thinking about Sandra all the time. He was falling for her. The feeling scared him because Sandra was his boss and because of the complicated history with Sarah. But he couldn't stop it. One Friday, Sandra arrived looking stressed. She barely ate dinner. After Lily went to bed, Sandra told Michael there was trouble at work. A competitor company was trying to take over her firm. She had to go to Chicago for 3 days of emergency meetings with investors. She asked Michael to come with her as her analyst. She also said Michael should bring Lily. They would get a suite with 2 bedrooms and hire a babysitter during the day. That night before Sandra left, she told Michael the truth. She said spending time with him, and Lily was the happiest she had been in years. She knew it was complicated because she was his boss and because of Sarah's history, but she couldn't stop thinking about him. Michael admitted he felt the same way. They almost kissed, but didn't. Sandra said they should get through the Chicago trip first, then figure out what their relationship was. On the flight to Chicago, Sandra was relaxed and warm. She ordered Lily a special first flight drink with extra cherries. At the hotel, the suite was huge and fancy. That afternoon, a babysitter took Lily to the aquarium while Michael and Sandra went to their investor meeting. In the car, Sandra transformed back into the Ice Queen. She became cold and professional again. She told Michael the meetings would be brutal. The company trying to take her over was called Grayson Capital Partners. Their CEO was Richard Grayson, a ruthless businessman who would destroy her company if he won. The investor meeting was bad. 8 wealthy men yelled at Sandra and blamed her for the takeover threat. Sandra fought back with data and logic, but Michael could see she was losing. After the meeting, Sandra looked exhausted. They picked up Lily from the aquarium and had dinner in the hotel suite. Sandra slowly relaxed as Lily told stories about the whales she had seen. That night, Michael and Sandra sat on the balcony overlooking Chicago. Sandra asked Michael to tell her something good, to take her mind off work. Michael told her that Lily had asked if it was okay to love someone new even though Mommy was gone. Michael had told Lily that love doesn't run out, and there's always room for more people in your heart. Sandra cried when she heard this. Michael said he thought Lily was figuring out that she loved Sandra. Sandra said she didn't know what she did to deserve being in their lives. Michael said she deserved it because she had been kind and selfless. They held hands and looked at the city. Michael wanted to kiss her, but still felt like they needed to be careful. Sandra seemed to understand. She said she wasn't going anywhere, and Michael could take his time. The next morning, Michael went down to the hotel restaurant early for coffee. He was reading reports when he heard a familiar voice across the room. A man was talking about pushing harder to take over Ferguson's company. Michael looked up and saw the man was in his 60s with silver hair. The man had Michael's eyes, his nose, his jawline. It was Richard Grayson, CEO of Grayson Capital Partners. Richard Grayson was Michael's father. Michael hadn't seen his father in 12 years. Not since Richard skipped Sarah's funeral because of work. Not since Richard said Michael's marriage and career choices were embarrassing. Michael had cut all ties with his father. He had even changed his last name from Grayson to Smith. He built a life far away from Richard's cruel ambition. Now Richard was trying to destroy Sandra's company. Michael realized this couldn't be random. His father always had personal reasons for his business moves. Richard must be targeting Sandra because of Michael. Michael immediately texted Sandra that they needed to talk. When Sandra came to his room, Michael told her everything. Richard Grayson was his father. Michael had been estranged from him for over a decade. He had changed his name and built a new life. But now Richard was attacking Sandra's company, and Michael was sure it was personal. Richard was vindictive enough to destroy Sandra's business just to hurt Michael. Sandra was shocked. She asked if Michael thought Richard knew Michael worked for her. Michael wasn't sure, but he said his father had told him years ago that he would make sure Michael never succeeded without him. Maybe Richard had found out about Michael's job and decided to act. Sandra said this wasn't Michael's fault, but Michael felt guilty anyway. Michael told Sandra he had heard Richard at breakfast, saying Sandra was weak and they needed to push harder. Richard wanted control of the company by end of quarter. Sandra's expression became cold and determined. She said they needed to fight back. The board meeting was in 2 hours, and they needed a strategy. Michael said they should use his connection to Richard. He could reach out to his father and figure out Richard's plan. Sandra said absolutely not. She wouldn't put Michael in that position. But Michael insisted. He said he was the only one who knew how Richard operated. After arguing for 20 minutes, Sandra agreed, but only after the board meeting. The board meeting was a disaster. The directors panicked and demanded Sandra sell the company or resign. Sandra presented data and strategies, but she was losing ground. The men wanted someone to blame. Michael did something he had never done before. He stood up in the middle of the meeting and defended Sandra. He told the board that Sandra had led the company through 3 recessions and doubled its value. He said Grayson Capital Partners had a history of hostile takeovers followed by destroying companies. If they let Richard win, they would lose everything. Michael said he knew Richard Grayson personally and knew how to beat him. The board demanded to know how Michael knew Richard. Michael took a deep breath and told them Richard was his father. He explained about the estrangement, the name change, and his theory that Richard was targeting Sandra because of Michael. The room erupted with shouting. One director said Michael was a liability and needed to be removed. Sandra said no. She said Michael was her most trusted analyst and he was staying. She said if they tried to remove him, she would resign immediately. The board didn't want that because Sandra's resignation would hand the company to Richard on a silver platter. Finally, the chairman agreed Michael could stay, but if things went wrong, it would be Michael's fault. After the meeting, Sandra pulled Michael aside. She said he didn't have a defender like that. Michael said yes, he did. Sandra had protected him for 3 years. Now it was his turn to protect her. Listen, if you're still here, it means you're invested. You want to see what happens next. But here's the reality. Most people watch stories like this and scroll away without subscribing. They enjoy it, then vanish. If this story actually matters to you, if you genuinely care about how it ends, hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second. Otherwise, you'll probably forget this channel exists and miss all the other incredible stories I share. That afternoon, Michael sat in the hotel suite trying to figure out what to do next. Lily was with a babysitter at a museum. Sandra was making phone calls to lawyers and investors. Michael knew he had to contact his father, but he didn't know how. He hadn't spoken to Richard in 12 years. What would he even say? Finally, Michael decided to just do it. He found his father's business email online and sent a simple message. We need to talk. I know what you're doing to Ferguson and Associates. This is Michael. The response came 30 minutes later. Starbucks on Michigan Avenue. 1 hour. Come alone. Michael told Sandra where he was going. She wanted to come with him, but Michael said no. This conversation needed to happen father to son, not CEO to CEO. Sandra made him promise to be careful. Michael promised. The Starbucks was crowded with tourists and business people. Michael spotted his father immediately at a corner table. Richard looked older than Michael remembered. His hair was completely silver now. He had more wrinkles. But his eyes were the same, cold, calculating, judgmental. Hello, Michael, Richard said. Or should I call you Michael Smith now? I heard you change your name. Hello, Dad. Michael sat down across from him. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Running my business? Making smart investments? You know what I'm talking about. Ferguson and Associates. Sandra Ferguson. You're trying to destroy her company. Richard smiled, but it wasn't friendly. I'm trying to acquire an undervalued firm with strong fundamentals. It's business, Michael. Nothing personal. Everything is personal with you. You don't make random moves. You targeted Sandra specifically. Why? Richard leaned back in his chair. You really want to know? Fine. I'll tell you. 2 years ago, I hired a private investigator to check on you. I wanted to know what my disappointing son was doing with his mediocre life. The investigator told me you were working as an analyst at Ferguson and Associates. A decent job, but nothing special. Nothing worthy of my son. Michael's hands clenched into fists under the table. Richard continued. Then the investigator found something interesting. He discovered that Sandra Ferguson was registered as a bone marrow donor, and records showed she donated to someone in Boston 8 years ago. With some digging, he confirmed the recipient was your wife, Sarah. That's when I realized Sandra Ferguson wasn't just your boss. She was a woman who saved your wife's life. So you decided to destroy her company because of that? Not because of that. Because you chose her over me. Richard's voice turned cold. You cut me out of your life, Michael. You changed your name. You built a new family with that woman, Sarah, and your daughter. You rejected everything I offered you, money, power, a position in my company. And then you went to work for some random CEO who happened to save your wife. You gave Sandra Ferguson your loyalty instead of giving it to your own father. That was unforgivable. Michael stared at his father in disbelief. You're attacking Sandra's company because you're jealous? Because I work for her instead of you. I'm teaching you a lesson. You can't reject your family and expect no consequences. If I destroy Ferguson and Associates, you lose your job. You lose your stability. You lose everything you built without me. And then maybe you'll understand what you threw away. You're insane. I'm practical. And I'm winning, Michael. Sandra Ferguson's company will be mine in 6 weeks. The board is already turning on her. The investors are getting nervous. She's fighting a losing battle. Michael felt rage building in his chest. His father hadn't changed at all. He was still the same cruel, manipulative man who cared more about winning than about his own son. Michael had been right to cut ties 12 years ago. You know what? Michael said quietly, you're right that I chose a new family. But it wasn't just Sarah and Lily. It's Sandra, too. She's been more of a parent to me in 3 months than you ever were. She cares about Lily. She supports my career. She shows up when it matters. You skipped Sarah's funeral for a business meeting. Sandra donates bone marrow to a complete stranger. You're not teaching me a lesson, Dad. You're reminding me why I left. Richard's face darkened. Careful, Michael. I'm done being careful with you. And I'm done with this conversation. You want to fight? You got one. Sandra and I will beat you together. And when we do, I never want to see you again. Michael stood up and walked out. His hands were shaking with anger and adrenaline. He called Sandra from the sidewalk and told her everything Richard had said. Sandra listened in silence. Your father is trying to destroy my company because you work for me, Sandra said slowly. Because you chose me over him. Yes. I'm so sorry, Sandra. This is all my fault. No, this is your father's fault. He's a bitter, cruel man who can't accept that his son built a better life without him. We're going to fight him, Michael, and we're going to win. How? I don't know yet, but we have something Richard doesn't have. We have each other. That night, Michael, Sandra, and Lily had dinner in the suite. Michael didn't tell Lily about Richard. She didn't need to know her grandfather was trying to hurt them. Instead, they played games and watched movies and pretended everything was normal. After Lily fell asleep, Michael and Sandra sat on the balcony again. The city lights sparkled below them. I need to ask you something, Sandra said. If we fight your father and win, he'll retaliate. He'll make your life difficult. He might try to hurt you professionally or personally. Are you sure you want to do this? Absolutely. Richard stopped being my father 12 years ago. I don't owe him anything. And if we lose, if he takes my company and we both end up unemployed, Michael reached over and took Sandra's hand. Then we'll figure out together. I'm not afraid of losing my job. Sandra, I'm afraid of losing you. Sandra's eyes filled with tears. Michael, I love you, Michael said. The words came out before he could stop them, but he didn't want to stop them. They were true. I know it's complicated and scary and maybe too soon, but I love you. You saved my wife. You've been incredible to my daughter. You made me feel alive again. I love you, and I'm not going to let my father destroy what we have. Sandra was crying now. I love you too. I've loved you since that first Friday dinner when I watched you with Lily and realized what an amazing father you are. I've loved you every moment since. Michael pulled Sandra close and kissed her. It was their first kiss, and it felt like everything clicking into place. When they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling. We're going to beat him, Sandra whispered. Together? Together, Michael agreed. The next morning, Michael and Sandra went into battle mode. They spent hours on the phone with lawyers, financial advisors, and board members. They built a strategy to fight Richard's takeover. Sandra would court new investors to buy up shares before Richard could get them. Michael would use his knowledge of his father's tactics to anticipate Richard's next moves. They would work as a team. Over the next 4 weeks, they fought hard. Sandra gave presentations to potential investors. Michael analyzed financial data and found weaknesses in Richard's plan. They worked late every night, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning. Lily stayed with a trusted babysitter during the long days, but every evening, Michael and Sandra made sure to have dinner with her. They refused to let the battle consume their entire lives. The board slowly started to trust Sandra again. Michael's predictions about Richard's tactics proved accurate again and again. Sandra secured 3 major new investors who bought significant shares in the company. Richard's control started to slip. Then Michael discovered something. While digging through financial records, he found evidence that Richard had bribed 2 of Sandra's board members. The men had been secretly working for Richard, feeding him inside information and undermining Sandra at every board meeting. It was illegal and unethical. Michael and Sandra took the evidence to the authorities. An investigation was launched. Within a week, the 2 corrupt board members resigned in disgrace. Richard's takeover attempt collapsed. Without his inside sources, he couldn't maintain his advantage. Sandra's company was safe. The final board meeting was triumphant. Sandra stood before the directors and announced that Ferguson and Associates had secured enough investments to remain independent. The hostile takeover was defeated. The board members applauded. Several of them apologized to Sandra for doubting her. After the meeting, the chairman pulled Michael aside. He said the board wanted to offer Michael a vice president position. Michael would be Sandra's second in command, helping her run the company. The salary was triple what Michael currently made. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. Michael accepted immediately. That night, Michael, Sandra, and Lily celebrated at a fancy restaurant in Boston. Lily wore her best dress and ordered chocolate cake for dessert. She was happy because her dad was happy, and because Sandra was there smiling at both of them. After they dropped Lily off with a babysitter, Michael and Sandra went for a walk along the harbor. The moon was full and bright over the water. "We did it," Sandra said. "We actually won." "You did it. You're the one who saved the company." "No, Michael. We did it together. I couldn't have won without you. Your courage, your intelligence, your willingness to stand up to your father. That's what made the difference." They stopped walking and faced each other. Michael pulled a small box from his pocket. Sandra's eyes went wide. "Michael, what?" "I know we've only been together for a few months. I know some people think this is too fast, but I've learned something these past weeks. Life is short and precious. Sarah taught me that. When you find something real and beautiful, you hold on to it. You don't wait. You don't hesitate." Michael opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. "Sandra Ferguson, you saved my wife's life. You've loved my daughter like she's your own. You've made me believe in love again. Will you marry me?" Sandra was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes. Yes, of course yes." Michael slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her. Behind them, the harbor lights reflected on the water like scattered stars. 3 months later, they had a small wedding in Michael's backyard. Lily was a flower girl, wearing a white dress with a unicorn on it. She took her job very seriously, carefully dropping rose petals on the grass. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the marriage, Lily shouted, "No way," and everyone laughed. Michael and Sandra exchanged vows they had written themselves. Sandra promised to love and protect Michael and Lily for the rest of her life. Michael promised to stand by Sandra through every challenge. They promised to be partners in everything: family, business, life. After the ceremony, Lily came running up and hugged them both. "Does this mean Sandra is my mom now?" Sandra knelt down to Lily's level, tears in her eyes. "I could never replace your first mom. She was special and wonderful, and she loved you so much. But if you want, I could be your second mom. You could have 2 moms, one in heaven and one right here." Lily thought about this seriously. Then she nodded. "Okay, I like having 2 moms." That means I'm double loved. Triple loved, Michael said, pulling them both close. Because I love you too, princess. At the reception, Sandra gave a speech. She thanked everyone for coming. She thanked Michael for teaching her that life was about more than just work and success. She thanked Lily for showing her what real joy looked like. And she said something Michael would never forget. 8 years ago, I donated bone marrow to a stranger. I thought that was the end of the story. I thought I did my good deed and moved on. But it wasn't the end. It was a beginning. That one decision led me here, to this backyard, to this family. It brought me Michael and Lily. It brought me home. So if you take anything from our story, take this. Small acts of kindness have power beyond what we can imagine. You never know how one decision might change your entire life. Everyone applauded. Michael stood next to his new wife, holding his daughter's hand, and felt complete. His father had tried to destroy them, but instead, he had brought them closer together. Richard wanted to teach Michael a lesson about family loyalty, but he had actually taught Michael what real family meant. Real family wasn't about blood or obligation. It was about showing up. It was about sacrifice. It was about love. A month after the wedding, Michael got a letter from his father. It was short. You won. Congratulations. Don't expect to hear from me again. Michael threw the letter away without a second thought. Richard was right. He had won, but not the way Richard meant. Michael hadn't won a business battle or proved a point. He had won something much more valuable. He had found a partner who understood him, loved him, and would fight beside him. He had given his daughter a mother who chose him every single day. He had built a life based on kindness instead of cruelty, love instead of competition. That night, Michael tucked Lily into bed as usual. She hugged her unicorn, the one Sandra had given her that first Friday dinner months ago. Daddy, Lily said sleepily, I'm glad you sent that wrong text message. Michael laughed. Me too, princess. Me too. He kissed her forehead and turned out the light. Then he went downstairs to where Sandra was reading on the couch, and he sat beside her. She put down her book and leaned against him. Happy, she asked. Very happy, Michael said. Outside, Boston sparkled in the night. Inside, Michael's small house was filled with warmth and light and love. It wasn't the life Michael had planned. It was better. It was everything he never knew he needed. And it all started with one accidental text message to the wrong person. This story teaches us that small acts of kindness can create ripples we never imagined. Sandra's decision to register as a bone marrow donor seemed like a simple choice, but it saved Sarah's life, gave Lily 3 more years with her mother, and eventually brought Sandra her own family. The story also shows us that real family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's built through showing up, making sacrifices, and choosing love over pride. Michael's courage to stand up to his toxic father reminds us that sometimes protecting the people we love means setting firm boundaries with those who hurt us. When we lead with compassion instead of competition and choose connection over control, we create the kind of legacy that truly matters. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. Kindly support what I do here by subscribing. And then drop in the comment section if you like part 2 of Michael, Sandra, and Lily's story. What challenges will they face as a new blended family? Will Richard Grayson accept defeat, or will he launch one final attack? How will Sandra balance being a CEO and a mother? Let me know if you want to hear more.